Hi, good evening and welcome to the Housing, Health and Community Committee. Can I ask everyone to note the fire safety instructions that on hearing the alarm you should leave the chamber via the double doors at the back and exit through the building through the main entrance and congregate in the car park. Also, please switch off your mobile phones and turn off any other electronic devices turn any other electronic devices being used to silent. I would like to remind everyone present in this meeting this is subject to an internet webcast recording where the proceedings are capable of repeated viewing. If you are seated in the public area of the council chamber, it is likely that your image will be captured by the recording cameras and result in your image becoming part of the broadcast. This may infringe your human rights, and if you wish to avoid this, you should leave the public seating area of the council chamber and move to the upper public gallery. If members are for any reason not present for the whole of a debate on an item, you should consider and seek advice as necessary on whether it would be appropriate for you to vote on that item. May I remind members to declare any interest when the item is raised on the agenda. Item 1 is apologies for absence. Mrs. Bourman, have we had any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Chair. No apologies have been received.
Okay, thank you very much. Item 2 is declarations of interest. Are there any declarations to be made at this time? No. Item 3 is minutes of the previous meeting held on the 30th of June 2025, which start on page 5. Is it agreed that I sign these minutes as a true record of the meeting held on the 8th of September, which begin on page 5? So, Councillor Pound.
Yes, I just wanted to ask whether we've heard anything from Essex County Council following on from our letter regarding Bishop's Hill.
Thank you, Councillor Pound. I did receive a reply. I can't remember from which Cabinet member to say that they've received it, but it was one of the Cabinet members at Essex County Council that said they had received it. No comments, just that they'd received it. Apart from that, is it agreed that I sign the minutes?
Agreed.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to item 4, which is the Play Space Replacement Programme. The report begins on page 11 of the agenda. Mr. Houghton, do you have anything to add?
No, nothing further to add at this stage, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Kendall.
Thank you, Chair. I think all members will be pleased to see this report come for us, which highlights some further investment in play equipment. On Appendix A, obviously, it's got the year 1, 25-26. If I've missed it in the report, apologies, but it was just trying to get some specific timescales on any of this stuff. So if it's year 1, you know, when in year 1 are we looking at for the work to actually be done? And similarly with year 2, is it sort of first quarter, second quarter, whatever? If there's any ideas on that, that'd be quite helpful. And on page 11, it's got some about, sorry, bear with me. It's got about the fact that the report doesn't include provision to maintain or improve play areas managed by the HRA. I presume we're going to get a separate report for the HRA ones, yeah? And roughly when might that be? Thank you.
Okay, so that's a two-part question, and I'll pass the first part to Mr. Houghton to answer.
So I think we're going to provide a more detailed information on the player sort of programme as we award the contracts. So year 1 now out to tender now. We should be receiving those back in the next couple of weeks. And then once we have those in, we'll be able to say this is the programme of time to get them delivered. But I think it's hard to look ahead, further ahead than that. I think what we'd like to think is as we've got this programme set out now, and once the budgets are approved, that we're able to start on year 2 virtually in quarter 1. So we'll be able to plan ahead a bit more, if that's the idea. But certainly we'll have a bit more detail once the tenders come back in. Thank you. And on the second part, I'd say yes, we're in discussions with Housing around producing a similar programme to come back into here for consideration.
Ms. Stretch, did you have anything to add?
Yes, so we will look to start the work on that next year. We're doing piece by piece with our work with the depot, so we've done ground maintenance. Next year it will be implementing bits around the trees on the HRA estate, and we'll start the work to bring the report forward within the next financial year to then implement towards the end of that year.
Councillor Sankey.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to thank Ms Stretch, Mrs March and Mr Aldridge coming out to see the Mount Messing closed play area, which we've been talking about for quite some time, so I'm grateful for that. Thank you.
Okay, if I don't have any further speakers, I'll move to, oh, sorry, Councillor Slade.
Thank you, Chair. I actually agree with Councillor Kendall. Upon reading this report, that was my first question, that we have a lot of information regarding how safety is compromised. So, for example, on the Cromwell Road play space, we're informed that due to the age of equipment, modification cannot be applied to resolve the issues of finger entrapment, head entrapment and expected tolerances. So we're given the action required, which is to remove all items of play and replace all equipment to meet the requirements of British Standards 1176 and 1177. But no actual indication as to when, or more importantly, why has this not already been undertaken? As both a member of this committee and a member of this council, I actually feel very compromised by this report because it highlights time and again North Road play space equipment with this area has reached the end of its life. The install is 20 plus years old. Safety surfacing on all items does not conform with British Safety 1177. And action required, remove all items of play and replace all equipment to meet the requirements. Again, when and why has it not been undertaken already? We referenced the Council's 1924 play area strategy, but surely that's expired. But upon reading that, in the foreword it says, this will ensure that children and young people enjoy high quality, safe, accessible and sustainable play areas. Well, upon reading this report, it would appear that actually we haven't got safe, accessible and sustainable play areas. And if we are about creating play areas, why are we removing the equipment at Warley Recreation Ground? That we're replacing that with benches. As far as I'm aware, a bench is not an item of play. And have we undertaken a consultation with residents to actually ask them if that's what they want? Do they want their play area removed and replaced with benches? Chair, I'm actually very disappointed by this report. As I say, I feel that I'm compromised by them as a committee member and as a ward member. I'd actually asked you to defer and ask this report to come back with more detail.
Thank you, Councillor Slade. Obviously, if we do defer it, it does delay action. So it will give you the opposite of what you just wanted us to do.
Chair, when we're being informed of head entrapment, finger entrapment, and not given any dates as to when, I'm sorry, Chair, I think we need a better report.
I understand, but I would prefer that action happens rather than we have a better report. But Mr Hoffman, did you want to address some of the issues? Thank you.
So for clarity, all players are inspected on a weekly basis, and so if they were deemed to be unsafe, the equipment would be closed. So this report obviously concentrates on the negative aspects of our player areas, not all the positive aspects. So although it can read as if they're in a poor state, the majority of the equipment is in good condition. It's just highlighting those areas of concern. It's the language that they will use. So although you may have a risk, it is a low risk. I mean, there is always a risk with all player equipment, even when it's complies with modern British standards. So what they're saying is this is equipment that would not comply with today's standards, but it is still of a low risk. But if it was to be repaired, you could not repair it to the British standard as such now. So you'd have to replace the entire piece of equipment. So that's what we're flagging up. So these are old pieces of equipment that when it comes to trying to repair them, we will be unable to repair. We would need to replace because a equipment company could not underwrite those because they say we cannot repair them to the new British standard. It's a bit like building regulations change over time. So what's acceptable when a house was built 20 years ago isn't acceptable to today, but it is still of a low risk. If it was of a higher risk, we would of course close that piece of equipment. We would not allow for player equipment to be dangerous. So to clarify that.
Councillor Slade, one more time on this
Thank you,
item.
Chair. So just to reassure, just to confirm, we've just had an officer informed that a finger entrapment and a head entrapment are low risk. And when we've remove all items of play, that's because they're low risk. And when it says replace all equipment to meet the requirements of British standard, that's because that's an item of low risk.
Thank you, Councillor Slade. I mean, I think you're mixing up risk and severity. So I don't know if you've ever done risk assessment training, but you have the risk and the severity of it happening. Severity of a finger entrapment is quite large. The risk of it happening may be low. But Mr. Hutton, did you want to come back?
So that's correct. And obviously there is always a severity with some play equipment that can be high, but the risk is very low. And I think that's what's balancing up. So with all play equipment, there is always a risk of even falling off from the top of a slide, for example. You would weigh up those risks. So we'd expect there's a level of risk with any play equipment that you use. It's whether that's a managed risk, and that comes with all assets or equipment that you'd understand there is a level of risk that is acceptable. And that is judged not by us, but by ROSPA. So these are ROSPA qualified technicians who come and undertake an annual survey. If they felt the equipment was unsafe, they would be recommended we close it immediately. What they're not doing so, what they're saying is that you have a risk there that will build up over time, and therefore they're recommended that you factor in replacement of that over the next sort of 3 to 5 years. And that's hence why we're putting this programme together.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hutton. I just want to say that ROSPA stands for the Royal Society for the Prevention of Accidents. Thank you. Councillor Barber.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not a member of your committee. Thank you for letting me ask a question. Couple of things, if I may. Can I also point out that Year 4 and Year 5, I did point this out last time that this was presented at committee, should represent 28-29 and 29-30. That is still incorrect in the capital requirement table and would need to be corrected before you can approve it, I assume. Can I ask a question, please, about the muggers? The mugger at Bishop's Hall, can I ask how many years old that is, please?
Sorry, Councillor, can you just point to the page where you're referring to?
Well, page 23, Appendix A, under Year 4 and Year 5, you will see that the...
I meant about the muggers, sorry.
Oh, sorry. It's a question about the Bishop's Hall mugger. It talks about its age, but it doesn't actually tell us in the report what the age actually is. It tells us that the Whalley one is 10 years old. It tells us that the Hutton Recreation Grounds one is 20 years old. The Bishop's Hall one, can someone please tell me how old that is?
Mr. Hutton, do you have that information?
I'm afraid I don't have that information to hand, but we'll try and get that to you. Okay.
If I could follow up then, Chair, because it does seem that on the Hutton Recreation Ground one, I went there and inspected it with Mr. Aldridge last Wednesday, and there were definite trip hazards. If you look at the comments on page 17, actions required, seek the installation of a new mugger or repair and reline the surfaces to the existing mugger. I'm slightly confused as to what this report is actually recommending is the solution for the mugger at Hutton Recreation Grounds. And if, as I suspect, that the Hutton Recreation Grounds is the oldest mugger within the borough, I'm surprised that it is scheduled only for capital expenditure in 29-30, and other muggers which are actually newer are being scheduled for capital expenditure earlier than that. And I just wonder if someone could explain to me the logic of scheduling what I believe to be the oldest mugger in the borough last.
Thank you, Councillor. Obviously, we don't know the exact age of all of the muggers to hand, but we will provide you that information. Ms Hodden, did you want to answer on the scheduling of repairs / replacements?
So the scheduling has been put together that deemed on basically what they feel was most important to address first in terms of condition. So that even though it may be older, they may feel the condition of that can last for longer. So there's always a certain level of judgment involved in this. But at least it's a forecast on capital spend over the next 5 years. I suspect we'd have to revisit this every year as new information comes available, but it is just to help forecast.
Thank you. Councillor Haig.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Page 14, Worley Recreation Ground. I've had a look at all the various play areas referred to in the agenda, and I believe that Worley is the only one that appears to have suffered from some degree of vandalism. I think it says in the report that the toddler play area has been vandalised over time. I just wondered if officers have any information as to what the nature of that vandalism was. I'm assuming by virtue of what's in there that it's a continuing, or was a continuing problem, and whether or not moving forward there is anything which could be done to either moderate, reduce, or even eliminate the risk of further vandalism in the future.
Mr Houghton.
I don't have the details of the vandalism to hand. What I would say is that obviously by replacing, you just want new robust equipment, I think is a key to minimising your vandalism.
Councillor Lady, very close to your 3 minutes. Do you want to?
Sorry, Chair, just to follow through from that, because I did ask if a consultation has been undertaken with the residents, because the report states it's recommended that these items are removed and that the area is transitioned into an inclusive play area with additional benches and seating for the family. So given that that's the recommended course of action, were the residents in Worley consulted on this?
Mr Houghton.
I mean, they know they have not been consulted. I think it's just a question of that equipment will be removed without undertaking some sort of works.
I think at this point, I guess what we're saying is that they think that, unfortunately, that is the only course of action in this scenario, because it's just based on what officers have advised at this point. Councillor Pound.
Yeah, sorry, I don't understand why that's the only course of action. We're taking away a piece of play equipment and putting in a picnic area. I don't see that that's...
So it's just in the Worley Recreational Ground?
Sorry, it is Worley, yeah.
Yes, okay. I guess it does say at the start that unfortunately so I guess Mr Hodden could go into more details, but obviously they're saying that basically the vandalism over time has meant that that will repeat, I'm guessing, unless we can reduce the vandalism. Mr Hodden?
I think generally what we're saying is there is an area of low level, the equipment there is of such low value that it has no play value already. So we're saying, look, you're not going to miss much by removing that and placing with benches, but you're just going to increase your maintenance burden again if you try to replace with new equipment.
Okay, thank you. I guess what we will try and do is make sure that we do look into that further as we go forward. Obviously, this is the capital bids. Each project will be considered on its merits as we go forward as well. I'll move the recommendations. That's R1 through to R5. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, so now we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Abstentions? Okay, thank you. That's passed. Okay. So item 5, we're required to go into private session and exclude press and public during consideration of the following items of business from now on the grounds that it could be disclosure of an exempt information as defined by paragraph 3 of part 1 of the Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972. Are we agreed? Agreed. Okay, so now we'll wait for the recording to be switched off before